Hey there everyone, I want to share with you an extremely effective system for quitting a severe marijuana addiction. I was smoking an ounce of top shelf bud every single week, and I had been a daily wake and baker for nearly 10 years, and I had tried to quit dozens of times, but I kept failing. Then I tried this system and I found it very easy and everything just sort of fell into place for me. I'm now 1 year sober, going strong, and I could not be any happier with my decision. My life has completely turned around, and now I want to help you turn yours around as well. Let's get started. I know I'm about to receive a ton of flack for this video. I know that marijuana can be used as a safe medicine or as a wonderful supplement, and that it's one of the safest and most harmless mind-altering substances on the planet. And I'm also aware that the vast majority who smoke pot will not become addicted to it. So I'm not here to bash marijuana. But the research does show that roughly 1 in 10 individuals who regularly toke up will become dependent on cannabis and develop an unhealthy relationship with the herb, which sometimes is not so bad. We all need crutches to carry us through the rough patches sometimes. But if we begin to feel that the crutches are limiting us or dragging us down, or we've become hopelessly dependent upon it, or it's beginning to harm our relationships or our productivity or our financial well-being, then it may be a good idea to consider stopping the usage. Maybe what was once alleviating anxiety is now causing even more of it. Or what once kept the depression at bay is now starting to depress you even more. In my case, my marijuana addiction started off slowly at first, where I would just smoke on the weekends, from time to time with my friends. But I loved it so much that I gradually started to combine it with more and more activities because it just seemed to make everything that much better. Why watch Netflix sober? Wouldn't it be better if I were stoned? Why go for a walk in nature sober? Why not smoke up before playing guitar or gaming or listening to an audiobook or eating a nice meal or going for a bike ride? I began to fall into a cycle of waking and baking where I felt trapped, like I was in a prison. What once was a ton of fun and made everything better had now become my baseline. Without it, I was absolutely miserable, and with it, things were no longer that much better anyways. I basically didn't even get high anymore. I just needed it to feel normal. Before I had my first sip of coffee in the morning, I was so stoned that I would get borderline panic attacks if I had to leave the house or interact with anyone. The first hour of waking up was awesome, and then the rest of the day went by in a cloud of smoke and lazy anxiety. Every hour, I would smoke more and more to try and recapture that first hour of glory. But the burnout, followed by the lift up, just progressively made me more and more tired and groggy. What I once felt was liberating my mind was now trapping it in bondage. Now, for starters, anything can become psychologically addictive, and that includes pot. Would anyone really care to argue that gambling or porn can't become serious addictions? Second, THC indirectly boosts dopaminergic transmission in the brain, and anything that increases dopamine transmission can become physically addictive as well. And so therefore, marijuana can become physically addictive as well as mentally addictive. Not too many people know about that. I have first-hand experience with this, and just because it may have not become addictive to you, doesn't mean that weed can't become addictive to others. I quit chain smoking cigarettes after many years, so I do have some experience in dealing with addiction, both physical and mental. And because I had underlying mental illnesses, which I was using the marijuana to cope with, including anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress, I actually found it much harder to quit pot than cigarettes. I'm talking orders of magnitude more difficult. When I quit cigarettes, I was angry and irritable for several days, but when I quit pot, I felt like I was in a never-ending dark tunnel and that the meaning of life had somehow been drained from my very existence. It was horrible. Furthermore, for those of you saying that you will not experience any withdrawal symptoms from quitting pot, again, that may be true for you, and it may be true for most users that they won't experience any withdrawal symptoms when they stop. And it may even be true that even if there are withdrawal symptoms, at least they're not life-threatening like opiates or alcohol. But again, I need to stress, I could not eat or sleep properly for nearly a week the first dozen or so times when I quit. My clothes would drench in sweat every few hours. I experienced the most insane mood changes and nightmares that I didn't even experience when quitting nicotine. So what are those if they're not physical withdrawal symptoms? Now, here's how to quit easily. Everyone's marijuana addiction will differ slightly. This is because you are actually not only addicted to the THC, you're not addicted to the high itself. That's a component of the addiction, but you are actually addicted to everything surrounding the high. You're addicted to the rituals and the relationships surrounding the addiction. Now, I used to roll fat blunts. I used to love walking to the weed store and scoping out and sniffing all the new product and asking questions about it from the overly knowledgeable, cheery, red-eyed staff. I was addicted to grinding a nice, juicy, fat nug and taking a deep, heartfelt whiff right into the core of my stomach and then rolling the perfect cone blunt and sucking on the tobacco edges to get it to stick together and then twisting and rolling up and inserting the tip, calling up my bros or grabbing my girl and going out into nature to spend 15 quality minutes of peace and good conversation while the blunt is passed around and enjoyed. A month or so after I quit smoking pot and the THC was completely out of my system, I didn't even miss the high so much anymore, so much as I missed the taste, the feel, and the process of smoking a nice blunt, somewhere beautiful with awesome people. I apologize sincerely if I just triggered your cravings there, but I needed to paint a picture for you of how the addiction works. Did you notice that none of that description was about the actual effects of marijuana? None of that description contained anything about the high itself. You see, it's not only the weed, it's the grinding, the rolling, the lighting, the toking, the friends, all the little rituals involved. It all comes together to form your addiction. So I found it very helpful to keep this in mind and to break down the addiction into its component parts and to begin to address them one by one. You know, like taking a daunting task and making it more manageable. Personally, I broke my marijuana addiction down into 3 parts. 1, the THC and the high itself. 2, the social component. And 3, the ritual component of rolling and smoking. I took a break from the social component while I tackled the THC component. I decided to make things easier for myself by maintaining the ritual of rolling and smoking while I was detoxing my body from the THC. I'll explain how to do this in just a moment, but first let me take a quick look at the social component. If you're able to go camping for 3 to 5 days, or take some sort of vacation away from it all, that can often be enough of a break from the social component to get over that first hurdle of marijuana addiction. Though if the only reason you hang out with your friends is to smoke pot, and it's the only activity that you guys ever do together, then you may have a much harder time with this component, and there might be some tough choices for you to make. It might be a good idea to consider limiting the time that you spend around them, depending on how serious you want to take quitting, how serious you want to take sobriety. Also, if it's up your alley then the ultimate form of social seclusion to help you quit smoking pot is by undertaking a 10-day silent meditation retreat. But they are extremely challenging, and they're not for everyone, and not everyone can afford to take the 10 days off work to do one. But if it is up your alley, if it is something that you're interested in, then I would really recommend checking out my video on the psychology of 10-day silent Vipassana meditation retreats. Now, quitting weed will be 10 times easier in the early days if you simply switch over to smoking CBD weed instead. And this is weed that has either 0 THC or negligible amounts of THC in it. It must be far less than 1%. Don't cheat yourself here. This is because you will still be able to maintain the ritual and habit of smelling it and grinding it and rolling it and smoking it. And the CBD will also help to ease the physical withdrawals from the THC. So your mood flashes are going to be reduced. You're going to have an easier time eating and sleeping. It's also just going to chill you out a little bit. It's going to reduce your anxiety. It's going to make the whole process go a lot smoother. Trust me on this one. Now, the CBD weed therefore helps us on two fronts. One, it maintains the ritualistic component of the addiction, therefore making the quitting process more manageable by shrinking it, while at the same time directly alleviating the THC withdrawals. Now, eventually you can either quit smoking the CBD weed or you can move over to CBD capsules if you like. So, personally, I still use the CBD capsules after almost a year of quitting weed, and I found nothing but positive benefits from it. So it's something that I highly recommend. Now, to further alleviate the symptoms of the withdrawal and missing the THC high, and to help transform my mindset and my mental frame, I used psilocybin microdosing. The first few days, I actually used a higher dose, 100 milligrams in the morning and in the afternoon. The microdosing seems to have this powerful ability to help support any major change that you want to make in your life. If you're looking to start exercising more or being more disciplined or eating healthier, for whatever reason, the microdosing seems to be great at easing transitions and supporting positive self-development and growth. Something else that will be absolutely key for those treacherous first few days. Take a look at my video on microdosing the psilocybin Stammet stack, because towards the end of that video, I go into detail on a healing ritual that I still do every single week, which has extremely potent stress relief and anti-inflammatory properties. This is going to make a world of difference, and it will help you tremendously during those first few days. I highly recommend following that ritual for the first 3 days at least. It will really help you fall asleep as well, trust me. Finally, it's important to fill the void of weed with something healthy and productive. I recommend daily nature walks or walks of any kind, getting into yoga and meditation, which will help you alter your consciousness and give you a natural high without needing to smoke up. You can try taking up a new hobby as well. Have you always wanted to learn how to play the guitar or speak a new language or something like that? Then go for it. Start off lightly. Set small goals, like practicing the new language on Duolingo for 15 minutes a day, or practicing the guitar for 20 minutes a day. Or you could get into some sort of sport or jogging or martial arts or taking up yoga classes, anything. And finally, don't be too hard on yourself if you stumble a few times while trying to quit. I stumbled, dozens of times in the early days before I stumbled upon this system here. It happens to the best of us. You simply need to redefine yourself as someone who does not smoke pot and build up the determination and the resolve and vow to keep fighting the good fight, and nothing will stop you from your inevitable success. Good luck. Take care. I'll see you on the other side.